Good morning, everybody. Can I tell you how young you all look? I felt so old when I walked in the room. It's great to be at a business conference with so many young people. And however, that feeling of goodwill was soon completely demolished when I realized that there's live tweeting being broadcast on the screens here. So if I'm not doing a particularly good job, it means that you can tell the world about it, and I have to watch you do that. So I will do my very best to be brief, to the point, and give you something that's valuable. I'm Chief Executive of BT here in Ireland. Just very quickly, we have 3,000 people on the island of Ireland, about 2,000 of them here in Northern Ireland. And in Northern Ireland, we operate a business which sells from consumers right up to large businesses. And we sell a range of products from telecommunications products to IT products right through to television. So a pretty diverse business. And the subject I'm here to talk to you about today is innovation. And I'm just going to talk about three things in relation to innovation. I'm going to share with you an experience of innovation for us in BT, something that we've done quite recently. And just talk to you how that process worked, because people often consider innovation to be something that is a big, enormous event that occurs. My experience of innovation in our company is that it tends to be a series of very small, brave steps that you take that eventually accumulate into quite a big transformation for your business. Second thing I'm going to talk about is just the sheer scale of opportunity that exists for companies today, if they're brave enough to take it. And then the third thing is just talk about how we here in Northern Ireland have a unique competitive advantage, but it's a unique competitive advantage for the moment. So those three things, my experience of innovation, tell you a little bit about the opportunity that I see and how we have a unique capability to exploit that here in Northern Ireland. First of all, our story of innovation. You may have heard that BT entered the sports broadcasting arena just recently. If you cast us back to 18 months ago, I was in a room where we were having a series of presentations on how we were executing our strategy. And one of the areas that we were presenting on was television. It was a reasonably significant part of our business. And somebody came in and presented on the Premier League rights that were coming up for tender in the not-too-distant future. That's 18 months ago. Now, we had no thought of bidding for Premier League rights. It's too difficult. There was a very significant player in the market. They had a significant capability for that kind of product, and we felt it was just something that we could not do, either afford to do or be able to execute on. He gave a presentation and got people thinking. Out of that, a small team was formed to look at, was this something we actually could do? Out of that, we bid for the rights, and 6 months later, we'd secured the rights to broadcast 38 Premier League games for the price of £750 million. An awful lot of money. Now, that was when we went, oh crap, what are we going to do? We have 38 games. That's not a TV station. That's a couple of weekends broadcasting. So we then had to follow that one up and go and secure further rights. So we had to secure rights for rugby. We had to secure rights for MotoGP. We ended up buying ESPN in the UK. We bought their UK business. So a series of other events had to be followed on from that. We then had to say, okay, we now have all these rights. How are we going to get these rights onto the television in a quality manner? And we set about building a studio. Now, we started to build our studio in February of this year. In February of this year, we built a studio. It is the largest broadcast studio in Europe. It contains 3 studios, 20 edit suites, and all stood up and started broadcasting on the 1st of August. Our chief executive at a recent session said, if we knew everything we know now about sport and the broadcast of sport, we would never have done this. However, having done it, it's been a phenomenal success for our business. It's actually transformed our business, and not just the business of sport. And it's been a hugely successful launch. In the first 3 months, we secured over 1 million customers. But it's transformed everything we do in our business. It's affected virtually every product line, and even parts of our business that don't do things relating to sport now think in a different way. It has changed the way our company thinks. So for me, innovation in this instance was a series of small steps that we made, each of them brave, and when you put them all together, created a transformation. And that transformation had an impact far beyond just the area in which we were innovating. It's had an impact right across our company. That's our experience of innovation. Talk about the opportunity and the pace of change. Take us back to the start of BT. 1846, 167 years ago, is when BT was founded and broadcast the first electronic telegraph. We then have quite a ponderous step through history of innovation, where you have the telephone, you have the radio, significantly spaced out. That's then followed, my clicker is slow here, or maybe it's me. Here was me talking about the pace of change. We had the first colour television, very quickly followed by the first single-user PC, and then we had dial-up broadband. Everyone remember dial-up broadband? Actually, I'm looking at the room. Hardly any of you remember dial-up broadband, right? There's me and a handful of us remember dial-up broadband. It was terrible. However, we then hit warp speed. Broadband comes along, and this is what happens. Time to 5 million users. Facebook, 100 million in less than 9 months. And we heard Gail from Facebook earlier on. Phenomenal success. We then look at all these brands that have come onto our screens and never existed before. And what's interesting about this for me is I started to do this presentation. I did the first version of this back in 2010. And it was a very different context. At that time, it would have been senior business people in large organizations who were looking at these things and going, these have no relevance for me and my business. And we put just the sheer scale of what these companies had achieved in a very short space of time. What I've done since is I've positioned, as we've gone through time, how they've grown. So if you look at Facebook, back in 2010, I was saying 500 million users. Unbelievable. 2012 increased, and we're now at over 1 billion users on Facebook. Similar Twitter, similar LinkedIn, similar Google, similar YouTube. And then back in 2010, Pinterest didn't even exist. And here it is with over 70 million users. To put it in context again, the opportunity. BT, we've been in existence for 167 years. We're worth about 28 billion, and in order to generate that value, we employ over 100,000 people worldwide. That's pretty impressive, I think, until you look at Facebook. Facebook yesterday worth over $108 billion. And I think last time I checked, they employ just over 5,000 people. Unbelievable success. Unbelievable scale of opportunity for them as a company, and unbelievable opportunity for any company that sets their mind to it. The other thing I can guarantee you is, if I was to give this presentation in a year's time, there will be another brand on that screen that we will have had to come to terms with in terms of how they impact on our business. So the pace and scale of change is enormous, which creates huge opportunities, particularly for companies who are agile, as you can see from Total Hockey, able to get in there, identify a niche, and make a big impact on that niche. So innovation for us here in Northern Ireland, we have a slightly different story here in Northern Ireland for our business. We started back in 2009 when we made an announcement that we were going to deliver fibre broadband across the UK. Team here in Northern Ireland, we ran across the water, managed to secure our bit of funding, and we put fibre into a small number of exchange areas in highly populated areas. That would be where you would expect us to make our first investment. Detty and Dard then came in behind us, and they said, you know what, we're going to get the rural broadband piece fixed. So we put rural broadband in. And they particularly focused it on businesses. They wanted to get to business premises. They put some money in, we tendered for that, we put some money in, and we delivered broadband to the rural areas, and we started that project. That was followed up by some small additional funding opportunities, and we then looked at it as a local operation, and we said, okay, so we've got the centre bit done, where there's lots of customers, and we've got the outside bit done, where there's a low density of customers, where the government was prepared to help us get funding. There was a donut that we weren't covering. So our piece of innovation was we built a case, and we went back over to London, and we said, listen, ultimately you're going to try and fill out to 90% coverage across the whole of the UK. Here in Northern Ireland, we can do that quickly, we can do it at reasonably low cost, and we can show you what a full fibre region looks like, which is what we did. And we made that investment in 2011. Concluded that investment in March 2012, and from March 2012, here in Northern Ireland, we have 90% coverage for fibre. And that is our unique window of opportunity. That puts us ahead of virtually everybody else in Europe at this point in time. Puts us ahead of the rest of the UK, certainly puts you ahead of the Republic of Ireland. I'm not having a good time with this clicker. And hugely successful, 150,000 customers already as of September 2013. For us, it drives every bit of innovation that we do in the company. Every product and proposition we look to provide to our customers, we look at through the lens of how do we do it with superfast fibre broadband, as opposed to how do we do it in any other way. We put it at the centre of everything that we do, whether it was with sport, where we have huge viewership across our fibre broadband channel using the app, whether it's with local authorities, allowing them to deliver services more efficiently, whether it's with home health. One of the biggest challenges that society faces is how we are going to treat an aging and chronically ill population. There are more and more people living longer and longer chronically ill, and it's a huge burden on society. Part of that solution is you treat them in their home, where it's an awful lot better for them and an awful lot cheaper for society. These are all things that this enables. We've taken our innovation to even further steps, where Rathlin Island, we have delivered fibre to the cabinet to Rathlin Island. Did we run a fibre cable? No, we didn't. We've done it by wireless technology. Again, continuing to push the envelope of innovation. So what does that mean for us here in Northern Ireland? And can I just do a quick survey, very quick survey. Business people here interested in growing revenues? Well, most people. Okay. Another question, businesses here interested in cutting costs? Most businesses again. Well, we did a survey or a study report with Regeneris, who looked at the application of superfast broadband across businesses in other parts of the world and how it might apply to us here in Northern Ireland. And they came back with, if we could drive our penetration from 18%, which it is today, to 40% by 2018, we would drive £750 million more revenue, and we would be able to save 45 million in cost. And we've split it down by different industry types. So this would be one you'd expect. The creative industries, 75 million or 76 million pound opportunity. Advanced manufacturing, 56 million pound opportunity. Financial services, 36 million. Agri-food, 82 million, and a whopping 526 million in retail. So the opportunity certainly exists for us here in Northern Ireland. And what do these customers look like? Well, let me give you these three first of all. They're featuring in our recent advertisements. We've got Little Wing Pizzeria. People probably know Jason. He's created a worldwide business, and he would put fibre broadband as a key enabler to that because it made things possible that hadn't previously been possible. And we've got Aideen Craig from the Dental Excellence organisation in Derry. Now, the interesting thing about these 3 customers is they all look a lot like you in this room. And probably they would be the people that you would think most readily would be adopting this type of technology, which is why the next lot of customers are actually my favorite. Very different demographic and very different business types. And these are people who, using fiber broadband, opened up new opportunities for their businesses and transformed how and what they were doing. It made things possible that previously were not possible. And that is the opportunity that exists for everybody in this room. That's the opportunity that exists for us here in Northern Ireland. If we look at every opportunity that exists in the market, there is a way to get to that opportunity in a more efficient manner, with better products, with better partnerships, by putting super connectivity at the center of what you do. Now, I accept that there may be some people in this room would not want to buy their telecommunication services from BT. Might be just 1 or 2 of you, I know. So the great news about what I'm talking about here is this is not a BT thing. We make this network available on a completely open access basis to any service provider. So any service provider can buy services on this network and deliver it to you to enable your business. So, in conclusion, I had 3 things I wanted to talk to you about. One was innovation in our company. I hope that story was helpful to you, gave you a little insight into how innovation worked in our company, and my personal belief that innovation comes from tiny, brave steps, all stuck together, that created transformation. The second thing is the sheer scale of the opportunity that exists for companies today to go out and be hugely successful in a marketplace that is moving at a pace that, quite honestly, is very difficult for companies like BT, because we are big and slow, and so much of an opportunity for organizations who are nimble and agile. And the third thing is the time-bound opportunity that we have here in Northern Ireland, where we are uniquely connected. Now, what we do with that connectivity, I can't give you the playbook. You're at the conference today and you'll have picked up, I'm sure, a load of ideas from the people who have presented here today. But we do have a unique but time-bound opportunity. And I certainly hope that as businesses here in Northern Ireland, we can work together and seize that opportunity and bring the success that this region so richly deserves. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me.